Hello and welcome to another episode of You Don't Know Jack, an HHN fan cast. I'm your host, Nick. This fan cast, which is not affiliated with Universal's Halloween Horror Nights in any way, aims to explore the history and speculation of everything to do with the greatest horror event of all time. Halloween Horror Nights 35 is on the horizon, and excitement continues to increase every day that the event draws closer. Construction has begun in the streets, and while we do need to talk about the zones that have been announced for the season, Halloween Horror Nights has officially released all 10 haunted houses that will be featured this year at HHN 35. So, on this episode, with Frequent Fear purchased and the countdown nearing its end, it's time to go over every single house that will be featured at the event. Everything we are about to cover has been officially confirmed by Universal Orlando for this year's Halloween Horror Nights 35. As with previous years, the event will feature 5 original and 5 IP houses. There have also been plenty of reports coming from the Universal creative team about what we can expect to see in these houses, and rest assured, it sounds incredible. So, using the information they have given us, let's go over every single house that will be featured, starting this time with the originals. For the original houses, we will be going in order of my personal least anticipated to most anticipated. Granted, I am very excited to see them all, but I figured this might be the best way to organize them. So, let's start things off with Madlands Caged Cannibals. Madlands Caged Cannibals tells the story of a defunct zoo that has become the deadly domain of warring cannibal factions that have taken their animal instincts to the extreme. They are territorial, they are hungry, and we are their lunch. Located in Soundstage 24B, which is where Grave of Flesh was last year, we will be among survivors seeking refuge from a dystopian wasteland within a defunct zoo. We will quickly realize, however, that while the animals are long gone, they have been replaced by something far more primal, the aforementioned warring cannibal factions. According to Assistant Director of Creative Development Laura Sauls, the idea came from their annual brainstorm week, where they have scenic designers and character designers all come together and bring in every idea they can think of to the table. The meeting happened last April, and it was one of the scenic designers that had the idea for a post apocalyptic zoo that was infested by cannibals because the animals were extinct. Humans are cannibals, and they take on the tropes and traits of the animals that once inhabited the zoo. The reaction in the room was, quote, "This is a home run." Laura Sauls went on to say that this is the bloodiest house of the year, which is easy to assume considering it takes place around cannibals. The tribes will fully take on the traits of animals based on the zoo's signage. Since the animals have been extinct for so long, they don't really know how the animals behaved, but they base their knowledge off of whatever they can find. They are killing machines, and the guests are their prey. She also says that this is definitely one of the more hardcore houses of the year. The house is set to be very intense, in your face, and harken back to old school HHN in an elevated way that pushes boundaries. This house was originally on the spec map, but we were missing the twist of cannibals. I still would love to see some ties into Cary, Ohio, but only time will tell. No matter what, I'm sure this is one that will live up to the hype of being the most brutal house of the season. The next original house we have to discuss is Cybergoria. Awaken thousands of years in the future in this haunted house and brave a cold world driven by machines with a singular goal: to make you live forever, even if it kills you. Humanity slipped off into machine induced cryosleep with the promise we'd awaken immortal. Instead, we found that our cybernetic caretakers had stripped away our flesh, transforming us into something beyond human. This house is set to be located in the Fast and Furious section and should still have the outdoor transition. The story of this house takes us to a future where humans sought out immortality but ended up suffering at the hands of their robot caretakers. A corporation called BioImmortal Bionic Intelligent Systems sought to offer its customers immortality. Of course, that dream of immortality required some technological advancements, so BioImmortal put its customers through a cryo-freezing process to preserve them until the technology could catch up with the rest of the world. As these things typically go, BioImmortal offers both a standard and cost-efficient option, with the cost-efficient version putting humans in freezer bags while they sleep. Unfortunately, BioImmortal could never deliver on its promise, but its intelligent facility tried to make do with its resources. That means combining human parts with robot parts to try to keep the living tissue going. Now unthawed from hibernation decades later, prospective customers have become subject to gruesome transformations into detached cyborgs. Those untransformed seek to escape from Bioimmortal's facilities, but must eventually face what awaits them outside in a desecrated future. Thanks to show director of this house, Matt Flood, we have some information on what we can actually expect inside the house. The house will take guests through the freezing process and into this disturbing future, where man and machine have melded. It will also take us outside of the facility to see what has become of the world. In addition, Flood elaborated on the types of scares guests can expect to see. One is a set of well designed mirror elements that enhance the space, making it feel huge and confusing. The other is a character that will make appearances throughout the house, which he hopes guests will become attached to. I'll be honest, this house doesn't sound great to me, but I hope I'm wrong. I do love the idea of a cyborg dystopian future, especially with the current world climate involving AI, and with how fantastic the Zyborg section of Slaughter Cinema 2 was. But something about this one just feels like it might lean a little too hard on the cheese factor, and may end up feeling kind of bland. But again, I really hope I'm wrong, and that we get to experience a very detailed and immersive house that takes the sci fi elements to a whole new level. The only reason I have this one slightly more hyped than Madland's Caged Cannibals is due to my love of Slaughter Cinema 2 and the hope that I will be surprised by this house. I really loved Zyborg, so if this house can touch on those sci fi elements, I could see myself absolutely loving this house. Only time will tell. Up next is Invasion Alien Abduction. Make contact with horrors from worlds unknown in this haunted house, where a ship full of greys have torn apart a remote homestead in search of fresh test subjects. We find ourselves in the middle of an alien abduction and scramble through the wreckage of a ravaged southwestern homestead, surviving viciously probing tentacles and making contact with horrors from the dark and distant reaches of our galaxy. The house will be located in Sprungtent 1, which is where Hatchet and Chains was last year, and the story is pretty straightforward. Aliens are abducting creatures and people from an old farmstead in the southwest to do experiments on them. They use heat seeking devices and tentacles to pull people into their spaceships. And that's about it. However, it's the details of this house that have me excited. First off, this is not the first time we have seen invasion at the event, as that matches the name of a scare zone from Halloween Horror Nights 27, which notably featured a crashed UFO in the San Francisco area. The aliens from that zone also made an appearance at HHN 30 in the anniversary zone titled Lights Camera Haction Eddie's Revenge. It's very likely that this is a continuation of the zone, which opens this up to the possibility of a proper legacy house. Hopefully, the house will be just as impressive as the zone before it. Now, we are getting into my two most hyped houses of the season. First off, we have the return of HR Blood and Guts in HR Blood and Guts Presents a Halloween Fright-tacular. For a full rundown on the history of HR Blood and Guts, check out our previous episode titled A History of the Horrific Television Host. If you did listen to that episode, this is basically repeat information, but we will go over it anyway just for organizational purposes. Continuing the trend of legacy characters, HR Blood and Guts is back in this sequel house. Fresh out of his escape from prison following the events of Halloween Horror Nights 21, Larry Kurtzberg, better known as the gruesome TV host HR Blood and Guts, is hosting one final special. He has returned to the WKMB station to present a Halloween marathon of straight to TV Halloween movies, his favorites that he never got to showcase 15 years ago during his first appearance at the event. Guests can expect to see a slightly different version of the character they are used to, with creatives teasing an HR Blood and Guts who tried to piece together his former look as best he could, but with a fun twist this go around. It has been revealed that this house will play host to a Q video for guests that will once again show HR Blood and Guts introducing the various horror movies and give a bit of insight on what guests can expect upon entering the house. A very cool detail with this house is that the original HR Blood and Guts actor who played the character in the Q video 15 years ago is back again this year to reprise the role, presenting an authentic, older version of the character. We also know that inside the house, HR Blood and Guts will be featured in video format, ushering us into each movie through small transition scenes. Think of the transitions in Slaughter Cinema, but with a TV screen with HR Blood and Guts presenting instead of just pure audio with a poster. We can also expect some classic Halloween textures. It's been confirmed that one of the scenes takes place at a Halloween party inside of a tiki bar that has been overtaken by monsters of the night. We can expect to see monsters, zombies, skeletons, ghosts, and more. Each movie will be unique, but they will all be based on the same Halloween theme. I am beyond excited for this house. HR Blood and Guts is such a fun character who has quite the history at the event. I think especially that fans of the Slaughter Cinema houses are going to love this, as this is basically the same format, even including a Q video. Seeing as Slaughter Cinema may not have existed if not for the very first HR Blood and Guts house, it's fun to see HR Blood and Guts return to the spotlight and likely be compared to Slaughter Cinema. This is a house you definitely don't want to miss. Now, onto what many people, myself included, would consider the main event of Halloween Horror Nights 35. The very first house that was revealed for the event and my most hyped house for the season, Jack and Oddfellow, Chaos and Control. Every scream has been leading to this. In this haunted house, discover the unsettling origins of Jack the Clown and Dr. Oddfellow's undying rivalry before stepping through a portal into the wickedly twisted Oddverse. With Jack and Oddfellow returning to play host as icons for this year's event, excitement for this house is on another level. This house is set to be a retelling of Jack's origin narrated by Oddfellow. That is until Jack takes over and a battle for control ensues. The Oddverse is an element that is being introduced with this house and will be adding to the lore and filling in a few gaps in Jack and Oddfellow's story. It has been revealed that Oddfellow used the Cane of Souls to sustain a domain of his own, existing outside the confines of any reality and leeching power from other realms, especially the Zodiacs. This Oddverse was able to be entered or used to enter different dimensions via dark magic portals summoned by the Doctor. One such portal, seemingly unknown to the sorcerer, had manifested inside the Jack in the Box used to hide Jack's body all those years ago, explaining how both ringmasters have preserved themselves for decades. With the power of the cane and the Zodiac infused into him via Oddfellow's spilt blood, Jack would be able to break free from Oddfellow's influence inside the Oddverse and began manipulating its energies for himself. Both icons would finally face each other from within this realm, controlling the narrative of their journey until they would join forces to create more chaos and control over their victims and their surroundings, referring to themselves as the Ringmasters of Fear. While this does give us an idea of what we can expect, Senior Director of Entertainment Creative Development, Michael Aiello, gave us a much more in-depth look at what we will experience from this house. While we did cover this in the speculation episode, I feel it is worth going over once again here. Apologies for the repetitiveness to those of you who have listened to the speculation episode, but I do feel this is the best way to get all of the information possible related to this house. The following are the words of Michael Aiello. Jack embodies chaos, turning everything into a performance and destruction, while Oddfellow represents control, manipulating events and bending reality to his will. They are opposing forces, but they are also connected. Neither of them would exist in this form without the other. That dynamic is where our haunted house begins. Guests step into the story at the moment it all started, inside the box and into the Oddverse, Dr. Oddfellow's domain. It's here they experience Jack's origin as it is being narrated by Oddfellow himself, his rise from human killer to something far more dangerous within the carnival. But Jack refuses to stay contained even within his own story. He interrupts the narration, takes control, and what begins as a retelling quickly becomes a confrontation. As guests move through the house, they are caught inside a battle of chaos and control, as Jack and Oddfellow fight for dominance over the same space, the same story, and ultimately, the same power. As the conflict builds, both come to a realization. Divided, their power is limited, but together, their ability to generate fear becomes something far greater. By the climax, they make a choice that is far more dangerous than continuing the fight. They unite, not in peace but in purpose. Their alliance creates something entirely new, an infernal carnival, a living engine of horror powered by fear itself. Every nightmare within it exists to feed that system, drawing energy from every scream and every moment of terror. This isn't just a place that was built, it's something that was summoned, born from ritual, chaos, and control combined. I simply cannot wait to experience this house every single night. Now, onto the IP houses for the season. In terms of the IPs for this year, I think it is a pretty decent lineup with a couple of standouts. I don't think anything can really beat the originals this season, specifically Jack and Oddfellow, but I am still excited to experience what the IPs have to offer this year. That being said, let's start off with my least hyped house for the season, Stranger Things 5. Stranger Things 5 continues the tradition of bringing the Stranger Things series to life in this fourth and most likely final appearance at Halloween Horror Nights. Join the Hawkins gang for one last adventure. Try to survive an army of Demogorgons, face the Mind Flayer, and defeat Vecna once and for all in this haunted house based on Stranger Things 5. The house will be located in Soundstage 23B, where Five Nights at Freddy's was last year, indicating to me that Universal expects this house to have some extremely long wait times. While not a lot has been discussed about this house, we can expect to see the Wheeler House, Hawkins National Laboratory, Max Z Military Base, the Upside Down, and the Abyss. With HHN adapting every season so far, this house was a no brainer for longtime fans of the event. But I honestly wonder if the house will be as popular as Universal is expecting. With a somewhat divisive final season and franchise fatigue, there is a possibility that this won't exactly have the same pull that previous Stranger Things houses did in years prior. But they have to complete the saga, and I respect that. Let's just hope that this house gives plenty to offer in terms of spectacle, because I seriously doubt it will have anything to offer in terms of scares. But that's nothing new. Stranger Things will likely wrap things up with the same idea of beautiful sets and lacking scares. I'm sure fans of the final season will love the house, but for those who have experienced the previous Stranger Things houses, I wouldn't expect anything new here. Up next for the IP houses, we have Evil Dead Burn, the newest film in the Evil Dead franchise, which just released in theaters this past July. An infernal force has taken hold of a family home, and it's hungry for its next victim. Dodge Deadites hellbent on bloodshed in this haunted house based on the new film, Evil Dead Burn. Try not to get possessed by soul sucking Deadites as you journey through this haunted house. With how recent this announcement was, we really don't have a lot to go off of in terms of what to expect in the house. I personally have not seen this new movie yet, but have been told, and this may be a minor spoiler, that there is a scene where a dog is brutally killed. Hopefully, that is not something that is recreated in the house, but seeing as they have done that before, most recently in Triplets of Terror at HHN 33, I would not be surprised to find a scene featuring a dead dog. The house will be located in Soundstage 23A, which last year held my favorite house, the Wyatt 6. It has also been revealed that this house will feature an animatronic Deadite Jessica head, with a mouth that moves as it talks. Other than that, though, this house remains a bit of a mystery. Hopefully, Evil Dead fans will enjoy what HHN has in store for them with this house adaptation. Another house that will be adapting a brutal horror franchise comes in the form of Hellraiser. Enter a realm of eternal suffering, where Pinhead and his Cenobites derive their immense pleasure in this haunted house based on the original Hellraiser trilogy. The house will be taking up residence in Sprung Tent 4, where Fallout was last year. Longtime HHM fans will also note that this is not the first time that Pinhead has made an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights, as he was featured at Halloween Horror Nights Sweet 16 in the house titled All Night Die-In Take 2. Same with the previously discussed IPs, there is not a lot of detail released outside of the fact that the house will be solely focused on the original Hellraiser trilogy. We can expect to see iconic characters from the franchise, as well as recreations of locations such as Cotton's Attic and the Labyrinth. With the reputation that this franchise has, we can also expect a fairly gory and brutal house that will definitely make use of Pinhead's chains. Personally, this is another franchise that just never really grabbed me. I do love the overall design of Pinhead, but I've just never really been attached to the franchise as the story just didn't keep my interest. I will of course be rewatching them to prepare for this house, so hopefully I will become more invested and have a deeper appreciation for the house once this season is here, but regardless, I expect to be terrified and grossed out by this one. We now move on to the house that took forever to be announced, Ozzy Osbourne, Prince of Darkness. Ozzy Osbourne's shocking image was as haunting as his heavy metal hits. Now you'll enter the Prince of Darkness's kingdom, where music and mayhem collide, and everything's gone off the rails. Veer through a decaying world ripped straight from Ozzy's lyrics in this haunted house inspired by one of rock and roll's greatest legends. Let the madness begin. The house will be located in Soundstage 24A, which was not actually used last year, but previously housed the incredible Insidious the Further in 2024. This house took a long time to be announced, and word has it this was due to licensing issues right up until the last minute. Apparently, Ozzy Osbourne's estate was not happy with the house and wanted to pull out of the event. But following a leak that revealed the Ozzy house before its official announcement, a deal was eventually reached and we will get to bow before Ozzy's throne all season long. Following the announcement, we did receive a few details of what we can expect from inside the house. Guests will venture through ancient ruins and foreboding dungeons before boarding the Crazy Train for a twisted ride into a realm inspired by the covers of his fan favorite albums Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, The Ultimate Sin, and Black Rain. Ruled by the Prince of Darkness, this fantastical world draws from the heavier sound and sinister imagery that defined the later years of Ozzy's career, transforming that creative evolution into a horrific journey through his unmistakably twisted imagination. This certainly sounds like it will be an unforgettable experience, and I cannot wait to journey through the imagination of this rock and roll legend. As I'm sure you figured out by now, at the top of my list in terms of IP houses is none other than Sinners. In 1930s Mississippi, libations flow freely and guitar screams fill the air at the Smokestack Twins juke joint. But the blues become red when Remick's troupe of bloodthirsty vampires crash the party and test blood's true bonds. As you brave this terrifying haunted house based on the award-winning original film, Sinners. The house will be in Sprung Tent 3, which was the home of Gawkin Monsters of the North last year. Fans can expect to see some of their favorite characters from the film, including the Smokestack Twins, Sammy, Remick, Mary, Annie, Pearline, and Cornbread. The house will also feature music from the film, including I Lied to You and Rocky Road to Dublin. Also, while it is likely a given, it is worth mentioning that the house will include the Club Juke facade. Creatives have mentioned that when it comes to scares, they are developing new types of scares specifically designed for this house with all new levels of immersion. But I wouldn't hold too tightly to that idea as it could be just a PR spin, especially when taken into account how, quote, unique The Quiet Place was supposed to be, promising that the house would be very quiet and guests would determine the type of experience they would have inside the house. This, of course, proved to be a pretty major exaggeration as it didn't really feel all that different from a standard IP house. Regardless, I believe this house will be in contention for House of the Year. There are just so many amazing ideas that could be adopted beautifully from the source material, plus the heavy themes around racism and slavery that the film presents could lead to a very impactful and beautiful house if handled correctly. I liken this idea to the house titled Darkest Deal from Halloween Horror Nights 32, which adapted the Deal with the Devil story in a Mississippi bayou setting. It ended up becoming a fan favorite for the season for its storytelling as well as its immersive feel. Hopefully, Sinners can live up and possibly even surpass that legacy. If handled correctly, I believe it can. That covers every single haunted house we can expect to see this year at Halloween Horror Nights 35. I think it goes without saying, but this feels like a pretty stacked year. From unique and interesting IPs like Ozzy Osbourne and Sinners, to terrifying and creative originals like HR Blood and Guts and Jack and Oddfellow. I love that Universal did not shy away from using previously established stories and bringing them into this anniversary year with a new and continuing narrative. I think this is very evident in the originals lineup, as 3 out of 5 of those houses are continuations of legacy stories and characters. While I am personally more excited for the original houses this year, I do believe the IPs still have some excellent ideas going for them. Plus, if you are a big fan of Evil Dead, Hellraiser, or Stranger Things, I'm sure you will have a fantastic time in those houses. No matter what you are looking forward to the most, I'm sure we are all in for an incredible season this year at Halloween Horror Nights. Thank you for listening to this episode of You Don't Know Jack, an HHN fan cast. This podcast is not affiliated with Universal Orlando Resort or any parent companies. If you enjoyed the journey, feel free to subscribe and leave a review. Also, stay tuned for a rundown of the zones and shows of HHN 35 coming soon. Until next time, remember that you don't know Jack, never go alone, and I'll see you in the fog.